Man, I'm seeing all the tech going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm usually at least sharing it with Katie. Here we go. Okay. Cool beans. We are live on YouTube. Seeing all the shush. Had to mute that.
So Tim, I heard that you did a complete rewatch. Any truth to that rumor?
I gave it my best shot. I'm somewhere in the middle of season 7 right now, so I didn't quite get all the way there. So I had to watch a few out of order with like the final bracket. But
well, I think that the finale might be the only one that made it to this round out of anything from the last 2 seasons. So you're probably okay.
Watch. There was a couple that skipped. Well, Goodbye Michael, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little bit in the future. I forget what else. There was like 1 or 2 that I watched while I was working today. Oh, and Threat Level Midnight, which I had seen. I actually wasn't an original Office guy. I started watching probably around right where I am now, like around season 7, just because my friends were talking about it and wouldn't shut up about it. So it was kind of fun because I'd seen them in reruns.
Yeah,
I used to work nights, so it'd be on late at night all the time on Comedy Central. But
were either of you original Office people?
I remember it was my senior year in college, not to date me, but senior year in college, second semester, somebody came into my dorm right after the show aired, and he was like, next week we're watching this show. It's so funny, you won't believe it. And so I've watched it since the second episode.
Nice.
I probably joined in, not at the very first, but watched it mostly, and then right around like after Jim and Pam get together, I kind of faded out. But then I went back before they took it off Netflix, like before like Christmas time, I think. I went and watched the whole thing.
Yeah, every year around Christmas we watched all the Christmas episodes, and then that inevitably bleeds into like, oh well, we'll start watching a couple here and there, and like kind of just watch some of the highlights and everything.
I'm gonna rinse out my cup and be right back.
All right. Well, we'll start with, as we wait on Kristen to come back, and before we get definitely into some of these matchups of the first round, what's some of the, in this subjective topic that could mean anything to anybody, what's anybody's criteria for what makes a good Office episode? What are you looking for? And I can jump in. I know for me, I actually, even though the episodes where they leave the office and go somewhere else, and that's like, you know, really, those can be some of the most fun. I think though the episodes like in parts when they're in the conference room, parts when they're actually in the office, those are ones that I think lend to be a better Office episode. I like when there's some sort of like hijinks going on, like something ridiculous. And I like when there's a little bit of like some part of the cast is like showing a kindness to another part, especially when it's like an unlikely pairing. Like those are the ones that I really like.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
Okay.
I was going to say, I can't remember what I was listening. I was listening to some kind of podcast, and they were interviewing a screenwriter, and they were asked, like, if you could have been involved with any show over the past decade, what would it have been? And they said The Office, because, yeah, The Office was a funny show and everything. It's like a good sitcom, but kind of like what you were saying, the kindnesses that folks showed each other, it like the show, even though it was kind of centered around some people that like were doofuses or they did mean things to each other, there was a lot of heart to it too. And that's kind of like ever since I heard that, I was like, yeah, that is like one of the things that really stood out about the show. Like, is like much of a like insensitive and buffoonish jerk Michael could be, there were times when he showed that like he really did care for people in the office. He just wasn't able to like show it. And like the couple episodes wherever it gets emotional a little bit is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wondered with
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Tim.
doing that
Yeah.
weird Zoom thing. Sorry. I wondered if I was saying to my wife at dinner, I wonder if the bracket will flesh out more differently in the current climate than it would have if you had done this 2 years ago. Like, would people be like more onto like the really like witty, sharp kind of episodes as opposed to now? Would it be more of like seeing Cafe Disco do like a surprise underdog victory there? Will those kind of like heartfelt ones somehow get people to go a little bit more for them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it'd be nice to Cafe Disco
Just good
For,
wholesome
like-
fun.
for like 5 minutes. And then I need to leave.
The one that actually didn't even make the list that is actually kind of emotional, even though you don't really think of it, is Michael's last Dundee's episode, where at the end they go back and they sing to him the song from Rent, but they change the lyrics. And in that scene, Steve Carell had no idea that they were going to do that.
Nice.
So it's like a genuine reaction from him. Like it was them really saying goodbye to him, and he had no idea that they were doing that.
You could kind of see it on their faces too,
Mm-hmm.
like just how genuine they all felt with it as well.
Kristen, can you throw up the QR code for everybody?
Yes. Also, I'm undoing this stupid ties are dumb. I don't know how you guys do these.
It's like the Casual Friday episode.
Yeah, I don't like it.
He unbuttons his doesn't wear a tie and unbutton, but like still wears like a suit jacket and everything.
I just watched the one where Idris Elba, who I always forget is in the show. Sorry, I'm trying to share screen. And Dwight has to wear long sleeves and he calls them shirt sleeves, and the whole time he's just like oh my. Okay, here we go. QR code.
Okay. So if you've not used a QR code before, you can open your camera, just hold it up, and then it will, if you have an iPhone, I think other phones do this, it will prompt you to press a link, and then if it says direct poll, your presenter will start the poll. Please stay tuned. You're in the right place. That start. And then, so how we'll go along tonight can be a little more informal because it's a smaller group. It's kind of fun when you have that, when it's like a more specific topic. But we will just breeze through the first round, and Ryan and I will describe the plot of each episode, and we'll just go ahead and vote, and then we'll get into pros and cons and all of that. So, so I think we might be ready to jump into it. So we have the top left region is the $200 plasma TV region. And we're going to be looking at the following matchups and just voting through this region. So Dinner Party is up against The Duel. Safety Training is up against Basketball. Casual Friday is against Beach Games. Benihana Christmas is against Goodbye Michael. So, and actually, Kristen, if you want to, you could hop over a tab to Field of 32, which has the smaller group without the group that we voted out.
Oh, right. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. Okay. So if you don't already have your voting link ready to go, time to get that out.
Katie's so much better at this stuff than me.
Kay, if you look at the bottom of that Google document, there's a bunch of tabs along the bottom, and the one tab says
hey, there we
is
go.
gonna be ready to go for you.
Got it. Okay, and I need to get. Hang on a minute.
And
Sorry, I'll get this in a minute.
No stress.
so it's going to come up, but I'll start by describing. So the first matchup is the dinner party, which was season 4, episode 13. And it is the one where Jim and Pam go to Jan and Michael's house for dinner, and some other people from the office. And Andy and Angela are there, and then Dwight comes with his babysitter and gets jealous, and Jim and Jan into a big fight. So one of the quotes from that episode was when Michael shouts, "You have no idea the physical toll that 3 vasectomies have on a person." Also, Jim says, and I think this sums up the whole episode perfectly, he says, "Michael and Jim seem to be playing their own separate games, and it's called, let's see how uncomfortable we can make our guests, and they're both winning." So that you have the dinner party, and then it's going up against the duel, which is season 5, episode 12, and that's the one where the office is all feeling really tense and on eggshells because Andy has not found out that his fiance Angela is having an affair with Dwight, and that's in that episode. Michael says, "Sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way, like improv conversation and improvisation." So that's what we have in that. If you can, we'll pull up the direct poll and we'll start the votes.
Can you all see the poll? Is it happening?
It
Yes.
is. It looks a little bit big.
That's what she said.
Ah!
Yes.
I don't know how to fix that.
No, you know what? I think it was on my end. So
Yep. Okay. So I don't know if we have what we have coming from YouTube viewers, but
yeah, there were allegedly some folks coming from YouTube, but yeah, not sure if they are going to be joining us or not.
Well,
So-
this one breezed through, so we definitely know that the party's moving on.
Yep, it's not going anywhere. I'm sorry, all my things got confused on
That's
what
all
I'm
right.
doing and what I'm not. Hold on 1 second. Oh, I know what I did. Okay, here we go. We're gonna move faster now.
All right. Well, the next matchup we have from season 3, safety training, and it's safety training day, and Michael and Dwight are trying to show everybody the real dangers in the workplace. And it's also an episode where Andy comes back from anger management, and Michael basically gets a bouncy house, and he's going to act like he's going to throw himself off the roof. And he's planning on landing in the bouncy house, but like that's not safe. And Jim at one point says he's going to kill himself pretending to kill himself. And then it's going up against basketball from the first season, where Michael selects a number of the staff to play a basketball game against the warehouse workers. And because he thinks his team's going to win, Michael bets that the losing team has to work on Saturday. And at one point, Pam says, "Please don't throw garbage at me," whenever Michael is trying to pass a crumpled up piece of paper at her, and she ends up getting hit in the face with it. So, and
Let's say 50.
And well, we got at least one person out there on YouTube because we got 6 votes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
and I think safety training is moving on.
Okay. So our next matchup is Casual Friday, which is the 5th season. I'm also sort of reading this off of a recap, so it's going to sound a lot like it's a recap. So Michael has to mediate a dispute with his new sales team. Meanwhile, trouble brews in the office when several employees take the term Casual Fridays too loosely. This is also the episode. So the one quote from this episode that is, "The trick is to undercook the onions," which is Kevin saying it, talking about his chili, because this is the episode where the cold open has Kevin spilling the entire pot of chili.
It's just
it's so good. It's so, and then using folders to like,
Yeah.
Okay. So it goes up against Beach Games, which is a season 3, episode 23. And that's where Michael's considered for a position in corporate. And he has to figure out who's his replacement is going to be. And so the group thinks it's going to be this fun outing to Lake Scranton, but Michael plans it to be like a Survivor-like competition in order to find his successor. And Michael's then considering who he wants to take his place. And he says, Jim Halpert, pros, smart, cool, good looking, remind you of anybody you know. Cons, not a hard worker. I can spend all day on a project and he will finish the same project in a half an hour. That should tell you something.
Oh, man.
It's tough. This one's tough because Casual Friday has moments, but I think better moments, but Beach Games is a better episode. And I don't know where to go with it.
Casual Friday also has where Meredith has to pull down / pull up her shirt dress, which gets me every time. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it's not, as an episode, not my favorite. I think I like Beach Games better.
And the one like actually it's getting knocked out, so I'll just say it now. The one funny thing is that you find out how Toby got into HR, and he followed somebody to Scranton after he left the seminary, or after he left a monastery, that he was becoming a priest.
Yeah.
And he just took an HR job.
Yeah.
And he was like, "So no, I'm not very passionate about HR." All right, next up, we have a Benihana Christmas from season 3. And it's the one where Michael's, Steve Carell's wife in real life, Nancy Walls, she comes in and she breaks up with him because he photoshopped a picture of himself into a picture of her and her kids going on a ski trip with her ex-husband, and then sends that out as his Christmas card. And then they proceed to take Michael out to Benihana to get him over the heartbreak of losing Carol. And there's 2 different party planning committee parties that are going head to head with each other, and it's a pretty long episode, but it's a pretty good one. And the quote from there is from Jim whenever he's in a confessional, and he goes, "It's a bold move to Photoshop your picture into your girlfriend and her kids' ski trip with their real father. But then again, Michael's a bold guy. Is bold the right word?" And then Goodbye Michael is Michael's last episode, obviously. And Michael's about to leave for Colorado and wants a day without drama to say his goodbyes to his coworkers. And the Will Ferrell character and Andy scramble to keep Michael's biggest clients. And it's just a pretty sweet episode with Michael going around and having small moments with everybody. And the quote from Michael is, "The people you work with are just, when you get down to it, your very best friends. They say on your deathbed, you'll never wish you spent more time at the office, but I will. got to be better than a deathbed.
I'm really proud of this vote because I think like the saying that some things don't hold up as well. And I think not being able to tell two Asian waitresses apart and marking one of them with a marker is like eeps.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure it held up then. Like it was very cringy and uncomfortable then.
That's true too. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next matchup. This is the Dundies from season 2. It's the first episode, and it's the first time that we see the Dundies, which is the annual award that Michael gives out. My favorite quote maybe in the whole series is when Pam receives her award and says, "I feel God in this Chili's tonight." She also says, leading up to the Dundies, she says, "You know what they say about a car wreck? Where it's so awful you can't look away. The Dundies are like a car wreck that you want to look away from, but you have to stare at it because your boss is making you." This is up against Customer Survey from season 5, where Dwight and Jim find out they from their like annual survey report, they get the results back, and Michael brings them in a conference room to try to like kind of practice them stepping through their calls. And it's the one where Pam and Jim get the Bluetooth phones and decide to spend every minute together. And Daryl says, "I was there. That dude is not engaged. I'm not a big believer in therapy, but I will go into my own pocket to cover his copay." So yeah, that's the votes we got. This is a tough one because I want the Dundies, but I love that Customer Survey scene with Bill Buttlicker.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
It's such a good scene.
Oh man.
You
say that was the one where was that the one where they were talking in their Bluetooth? So you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was good. Because then he kept talking to Pam and Dwight kept not knowing that he had the headset in and was confused. Anyway, it's fun. I'm not a TV writer, clearly.
Well, also, we're not actors and actresses, so the line delivery not as good on these quotes. But imagine the humor. It's fine.
Well,
okay.
Also, we could be delivering them better, but it just seems like a bit like, I don't know, pompous and pretentious to do that, I think. I don't know. All right, so next 2 episodes, season 2, sexual harassment. Todd Packer comes into the office and he's really rude and crude, and it's the first time you meet him, and there's a number of conversations that go on about sexual harassment in the workplace because Todd Packer is a great example of that. And the quote from Michael is, "Toby is in HR, which means he works for corporate, so he's really not a part of the family. Also, he's divorced, so he's not a part of his family either." Which is, it's like the first glimpse that you see of Michael really laying into Toby. And then The Convict is the episode where it's after the merger and they find out that one of the new employees is an ex-convict. And Michael tries to be supportive, but instead really upsets everybody, trying to compare The Office and prison, and dresses up in a bandana to play a character called Prison Mike. And one of the things that Prison Mike says is the worst thing about prison was the Dementors flying all over the place, and they were scary, and then they'd come down and they'd suck the soul out of your body and it hurt. Which really, that's the only thing I could remember from that episode is that line.
Oh my. Oh, and it's these are 2 cringy episodes to be up against each other.
Yes, there's a lot of cringy episodes, but yes.
Yeah.
But it's like that.
Okay, well, these are more. So this matchups to a little bit more emotional ones. We have Company Picnic from season 5. It's the Dunder Mifflin Company Picnic, and it's where Michael and Holly are sort of reunited. And and he kind of holds back on making his move on her because he feels like there's plans for them in the future. And they compete in the company volleyball tournament. And this is the episode where Jim and Pam end up in the hospital, and you can see them through the window get results that Pam is pregnant, even though they don't outright say it. And Jim comes out to call Dwight, who's waiting on to see if they'll be coming back. And he says, "Hey, Dwight, send in the subs." And then he goes back into Pam. So that's kind of a really sweet moment in the series. And then the finale. So that's, it happens months after airing the documentary. The workers of Dunder Mifflin, like from the past and the present, gather for the wedding, for the rounds of interviews. And a bunch of guest stars come back in on that. So it's just like action packed. And Pam says, her quote from that episode is that there's a lot of beauty in ordinary things. Isn't that kind of the point? So kind of more poignant matchup we have here.
Those are two great ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
But one wins.
11 votes.
All right. We've been getting about 7, so I think that's it. All right. So
KTT is voting along on YouTube.
What's that?
KTT is voting along on YouTube from another country. Thanks, Katie.
All right. Next matchup is Murder going up against Casino Night. Murder is when there are rumors that start swirling around the office about Dunder Mifflin maybe having to declare bankruptcy, and to divert everybody's attention, Michael has everybody do a murder mystery game where they hand out different personalities. And during the episode, Andy is trying to ask Aaron out on a date, but they aren't sure whether they're asking each other out as a part of the game or if it's in real life. So there's that who's on first quality to it. And if I remember correctly, it's in Savannah. So everybody's doing like different kinds of Southern accents and stuff. And
Oscar's attempt at a Southern accent is the best.
I was going to say it, but yeah. So good.
High pitched.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes, it comes in such.
So that's that episode. And then Casino Night, that is the season finale of season 2, where there's a casino night and Michael ends up having 2 different people come to the casino night as a date. One person, Jan, being his boss, and then the other is Carol, his real estate agent. And that's also the episode where Jim and Pam first kiss, and the couple of lines from there. Pam says, "Sometimes I don't put Michael through on the phone until he already has said something. I look at it as a practice run for him. He usually does better on the second attempt." And then Michael, after realizing that that he is invited 2 dates to Casino Night, says, "2 queens on Casino Night, and I'm going to drop a deuce on everybody."
Oh man, he wrote that episode.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Wow. All right, so we're gonna hop to a new region, and we're just gonna keep voting through. Casino Night moves on, and now we have The Injury up against Scott's Tots. The Injury is from season 2, and this one was written by Mindy Kaling. It's where Michael burns his foot on a George Foreman grill. And then Dwight gets a concussion trying to rush to get Michael and rescue Michael. And so then Jim takes Dwight and Michael to the hospital, and Michael tries to even stick his foot into Dwight's CAT scan and make it more about him again. And so Michael says in the episode, "Today I got up, stepped onto the grill, it clamped down on my foot, and that's it. I don't see what's so hard to believe about that." And then it's up against Scott's Tots, which might be one of the tougher ones for people to watch. Michael's forced to face the music after he realizes he can't keep a promise that he made to a group of kids 10 years ago. And it's also Jim starts an Employee of the Month program as like the side part of that story. And Michael says in that episode, I've made some empty promises in my life, but hands down, that was the most generous.
Which I don't remember because I don't think I've gone back to rewatch Scott's Tots, but that's such a funny line.
It may be one of the most cringe episodes.
It is tough. It is the tough.
Because the Scott's Tots part, but then also like the whole Employee of the Month is like Dwight being like the most awful and trying to get Jim fired ever.
Yeah.
It was a slog. I just watched that one today. It was like, oh gosh. I feel like I need a shower.
Yeah, it's a rough one. It crosses over from being like funny, awkward into just like punishment. So yeah, so we all made the right choice. This is great. We also put that up against a 1 seed. We put some of the very cringiest ones up against the 1 seed, just so we don't even need to worry about it.
Yeah.
All right, so we have The Surplus, which I actually watched last night to catch up with. And Michael finds out that the company has to spend $4,300 of the surplus of their budget before the end of the day, or else they're going to have $4,300 less in the next year's budget. And also, they're basically trying to figure out what they're going to spend it on. And it's a debate between everybody getting new chairs or a new copier. And Pam at one point says, look, I really need this new chair. I mean, seriously, how is it possible that in 5 years I've had 2 engagement rings and only 1 chair? And then that's going up against The Job, which is season 3 season finale. And there's a job opening at corporate that puts Michael, Jim, and Karen, played by Rashida Jones, and they all go to New York for the interview. And while back in Scranton, Dwight tries to kind of take over and, do his whole assistant to the regional manager thing. But the line from there, which doesn't have to do with either of those plot points, but it's really, really funny, is last year, Creed asked me how to set up a blog. Wanting to protect the world from being exposed to Creed's brain, I opened a Word document on his computer and put an address at the top. I've read some of it. Even for the internet, it's pretty shocking. And that's Ryan that said that.
And it's www.creedthoughts. Wait, put it in the Facebook event, and now I'm trying to do it from memory. But Creed just like rattles it off as like absolute nonsense. Oh my gosh. I can't find it, but yeah. Oh, www.creedthoughts.gov.www/creedthoughts.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, Surplus moves on, and then we have in this matchup we have Michael Scott Paper Company from season 5, where this is where Dwight and Andy go together on they plan a hunting trip, and then the regional supervisor Charles, which is the Idris Elba character. He asked Jim for a rundown, and Jim spends his whole day trying to figure out what that would be. And then Michael hosts a paper and pancakes luncheon. One of the quotes from the episode, they always say that it's a mistake to hire your friends, and they are right. So I hired my best friends, and this is what I get. And then Threat Level Midnight was season 7. And this is the culmination of 11 years of writing and shooting and editing. Michael presents his long-awaited action movie called Threat Level Midnight. And he shows it to all the coworkers and Holly, and this is when he's really liking Holly. And he stars as Agent Michael Scarn. and Dwight Schrute plays the butler sidekick, and Jim Halpert is the golden face arch nemesis. And there's just like lots of guest stars because it's supposed to be filmed over 11 years. So people who had been like in the seasons past, Rashida Jones comes in, Amy Ryan. So yeah, that's kind of what the whole episode is around. Oh, and Michael says, it'll take a lot more than a bullet to the brain, lungs, heart, back, and balls to kill Michael Scarn.
One of the things that I like about the Michael Scott Paper Company episode is that it's one of the, they completely changed the intro. So it's like the same, like people doing stuff around the office while the theme song's playing, but it's in the Michael Scott Paper Company office.
I don't think I realized that, and I just watched those. That's clever.
Mm-hmm.
I must not have watched the intro.
Michael Scott Paper Company Eeks 5.
Yeah, looks like that one's moving on. All right. Next up, we have Office Olympics, and Michael has a panic attack during a new real estate purchase, and while he is out taking care of that, the rest of the Dunder Mifflin employees do an Office Olympics because neither he nor Dwight are there, and it's one of the classic like hijinks kind of episodes, and it's a lot of fun, but nobody like. It's not really that malicious, the humor in it. Like everybody's just kind of like having a fun time and everything. And Michael says at one point, I'm an early bird and a night owl, so I'm wise and I have worms. And then that's going up against Diversity Day. And there's a racial tolerance and diversity in the workplace seminar where everybody has to go to it because the corporate wants to allow Michael to save face because he's actually the only one who needs to go through it because he said some offensive stuff, to put it lightly. And after the consultant leaves, who's played by Larry Wilmore, Michael decides that he's going to really show everybody what diversity is all about, and he puts folks in different scenarios and stuff that are really cringy and uncomfortable. But at one point, Michael says, Abraham once said, if you're a racist, I will attack you with the North. So, yeah.
So wise.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity Day is not one of them.
Larry Wilmore is amazing in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is good.
I just love Office Olympics too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Okay, and I think it's moving on. Yay!
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Last round or last region.
Last region. Okay, so the one seed in this region went down, and it was bested by Cafe Disco from season 5, where Michael has this empty office now because the Michael Scott Paper Company has folded, and so he turns it into Cafe Disco. And then the subplot in that is like Pam and Jim to take a little secret trip. And Michael says in that episode, you took a life here today. You did. The life of the party. And it's up against the Christmas party episode from season 2, where they all do a Secret Santa, and Michael insists on like a last minute swap of the Secret Santa gifts. And then Jim gets a little alarmed that his sweet and sentimental gift for Pam will end up in Dwight's hands. And so in this episode, Michael says, I do the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for these people, and they freak out. Well, happy birthday, Jesus. Sorry, your party's so lame.
Cafe Disco is just fun.
It is. It's really fun, and it takes place in the office. I mean, we'll probably talk about it later, but And I don't think Christmas Party is the best of the Christmas episodes. Not that we're going up against any of that, but
Ooh, but we're tied.
Mm-hmm.
We have had 7. So let's see.
Yeah.
Katie, are you out there?
Yeah, I wonder who it is. 7th person, you can break the tie.
I can also ask Neil who's doing bedtime. I'm just a very big fan of a dance off. Anytime there's a dance off, I'm in.
Well, it's cute too because like that was the one where Pam and Jim were gonna elope, and they just like stopped by Cafe Disco, and they're like, "Man, we should have a wedding with all their buds." And there it goes.
There it is.
All right.
All right. Next up, we have golden tickets. Michael has the idea, which he calls a golden ticket idea. But like actually it is golden tickets in like a Willy Wonka kind of situation where they put golden tickets into packages of paper for clients to redeem for discounts. And it ends up that these discounts are 10% off and everything goes to their biggest client. So they end up getting 50% off of their orders for a year. And the quote we have from there is Stanley saying, "I've got a golden ticket idea. Why don't you skip on up to the roof and jump off?" Pretty dark. And that episode was written by Mindy Kaling. And then we have the Booze Cruise, which I realized I hadn't seen until yesterday when I watched it. I'd never seen Booze Cruise. Like I just missed it anytime I watched it. But Michael takes everybody out for a motivational cruise, and it's like the middle of winter, and they go out on the lake and everything. And you know, he's doing his thing where he has to be the center of attention, and Pam and Jim, they are out on the deck at one point and they're sort of sharing each other's feelings and then not. And then Michael spills the beans that he has feelings for Pam to Michael. And Michael says, BFD, engaged isn't married. So those are the 2 episodes we're talking about.
Booze Cruise is kind of icky to me a little bit. Also, I don't like Rob Riggle.
Rob Riggle, yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. He's like the captain of the ship that, yeah.
The one thing I will say for Rob Riggle in that episode, he's less Rob Riggle than he normally is.
True. That is a good point.
Like, he's definitely being Rob Riggle, but it's slightly less Rob Riggle. Wriggly, I think they call it.
Really? Yes.
Fact about him, you know, he's a retired lieutenant colonel in like the National Guard.
Really?
Wow. That kind of makes sense. I can see that.
Well,
Right.
even if we get the 7th person, I don't think that their vote's going to make up that much. So,
Booze Cruise. Okay, so we have Fun Run against Weight Loss. The Fun Run is from season 4 where Michael runs into sorry, I'm totally blanking. Who does he hit with his car?
Oh, Meredith.
Meredith. He hits Meredith with her car, and then she goes to the hospital, and that's how she discovers she has rabies. And so he decides to hold a charity 5K fun run for her. It's actually a 2-part episode. The first part, there's a belief that the office is cursed. And then in the second part is the charity 5K fun run. And then there's just like further developments. Jim and Pam, you find out that they've been secretly dating. And then Dwight and Angela end up breaking up in that episode because Dwight kills her cat. But Michael says in that episode, he says, I have to be liked, but it's not like this compulsive need to be liked, like my need to be praised. And then in the weight loss episode from season 5, Both of these are the season openers, and they're both an hour long. So this is the season opener for season 5, and it's a weight loss initiative that makes the branch become obsessed with their weight. So their weight is like a total group. And Michael starts to kind of pursue that relationship with Holly. And then Jim misses Pam, who's attending art school. So he's going back and forth. And this is the episode where the cameras are like far away across the street and you see them meet together at a gas station. And he proposes to her just right there in the rain at the gas station. And in this episode, Michael says, "What's wrong with these people? They have no willpower. I once went 28 years without having sex, and then again for 7 years." So yes.
One of my favorite things about the fun run is when they're talking about the cost of writing out a big check, and the cost of actually getting a big check takes up like, I don't know, like 75% of the money they raised, and they end up still going with the check. So it's like way less money than they would possibly. It's rabies awareness. So yeah.
Right. So I mean, it's moving on. We can talk about this later, but
Yeah.
The official name of the 5K is Michael Scott's Dunder Mifflin Scranton Meredith Palmer Memorial Celebrity Rabies Awareness Pro-Am Fun Run Race for the Cure.
Which Pam has to say when she picks up the phone at the front desk. And then she stops halfway through and she's like, they hung up.
All right. So the last matchup, we have the convention against Niagara. The convention is early on in season 3, and basically Michael and Dwight end up going to a convention, but then also Jim and some of the folks at the new office that he's working at go there. And there's just some kind of like awkward sort of like one-upsmanship where Michael is trying to show that he's cooler than the guy that's the manager for Jim now at the new office. And at one point, Michael says, "I love inside jokes. I'd like to be a part of one someday." And then Niagara is the wedding of Jim and Pam at Niagara Falls. It's a 2-episode or hour-long episode. And the office, everybody in the office all travels up there for the wedding. And they're told not to mention Pam's pregnancy. And then during the rehearsal dinner, Jim actually spills the beans about it, and Pam's Nana is really upset by it. And a couple of quotes. Andy at one point does a split while they're having a party and dancing, and he says, "I was dancing and I did a split and landed on my car keys in my pocket," and he gets stabbed in a spot that wouldn't be great to be stabbed in, and screams. So that's a funny scene. And then I knew we'd need a backup plan because they end up getting married on a boat. The boat was actually plan C. The church was plan B, and plan A was marrying her a long time ago, pretty much the day I met her. And obviously that's Jim. So,
okay.
And
great.
those
Give her first round.
Yeah.
So we took a little extra time to go through each one, but what's great now, we can talk about the like great qualities of them. So we can hop out and start to dive into what we like about the episodes. So this first matchup we have is dinner party and safety training. So, I mean, there's not many of us, so we can kind of just, it's way more conversational. So we can jump in with anything we like in particular about dinner party or safety training. One thing I'll say good about dinner party is, so it's the first episode that was aired after the writer's strike. And so there was like a lot of time put into this episode. And there was also this element of like, everyone's back together, like the gang's back together, that the cast felt. And the writers felt, and I'm sure everybody working on production. And you can get a sense of that. Like you put the main characters of the show in a room together in this like pressure cooker situation. I think everyone's operating at the highest level. And you can feel that energy. I also like, so there's some episodes where people do a lot of improvisation. This was like a really tight episode, and pretty much every word they said, everything they did was written out for them, which is just, and Chris, you were talking about this earlier, Kristen, it's just like a testament to how good the writing was on this show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've said I've seen in a number of interviews that like there is some improv, and you know, they're all good performers and very comedic performers, but they say all the time like most of this is scripted and we just like go off the script. So it's pretty good writing.
I don't know if anyone has anything else to say about Dinner Party or anything about
so with Dinner Party in that episode, yeah, that like there's so many funny lines in it, just really, really great. But also, like you can like just not even pay attention to the people in the foreground. If you just watch people's reactions to things, that's worth it too, because there's so many things that are happening that everybody's uncomfortable. But like whenever Michael is talking about the vasectomies that he went through, Andy has this look on his face where he's like really listening in and like being really thoughtful about it and like, oh yeah, that's right. Like, and just some of the stuff that people are doing in the background is so funny. And just because I want to make sure I get it in, because maybe it doesn't make it on after this. Gosh, at the very end, whenever they play One Night, and it's like a montage of everybody going home, and it's the song that Jan's assistant wrote that's obviously about the time that she slept with him, and everybody is like just driving home, and like it's just such a perfect ending to the episode. Like it's such a good coda for the whole thing.
I also like, for like a production value kind of thing of the set. I didn't notice this either. I saw it written out somewhere, but like the set decorating for that episode, because anytime where they got to leave the office, they like got to like play around with different locations and stuff. So like, oh, now we're in somebody's house, and like all the pictures apparently are like Jan with other men. Just like just like the candles everywhere and all of the details of their house is perfect. It's like got its own personality in and of itself.
Oh, and there's a painting going up the stairs that looks like a Warhol of Jan.
Yeah.
Like it's like four different differently colored pictures of Jan.
Mm-hmm. Like she just came in and just like plastered herself all over his house.
Mm-hmm.
I think the sight gag of the St. Pauli girl sign too, when he puts that up and turns on like the light and everyone's just kind of like,
it's like blue in the whole room.
It's
great. And later in the garage sale episode, the St. Pauli girl sign is like among the things that they're.
Oh, that's fun.
And also I don't think he ends up selling it. And then he ends up giving it to Ryan, and it's in the closet that he works in for the last like 2 seasons.
I love that stuff.
Anything to say?
I love it. It's one of my favorites. The chaos in the beginning is so fun. It shows like them at max dysfunction, because you just have to leave the building. Like you just have to get out, but they immediately like turn it into something bigger than it is. It's Dwight being psychotic.
Is safety training, is that the one where Dwight like gets all the handles hot and it's that mass fire? Or is that stress?
That's stress relief.
Oh shoot. What am I thinking?
Yeah, that's stress relief, that episode.
I think this is after that episode, because during stress relief is when Stanley has a heart attack, and then they have to do the CPR training because Stanley's coming back to work.
Mm-hmm. But Stanley has the heart attack because of the fake fire drill.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Isn't that all the same episode? Am I thinking? Sorry,
that one lost to what's it called? Cafe Disco.
Oh, that's right.
That was the one seed that went down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Safety training, I love when they're doing the CPR and she tells him to do it to the rhythm of Staying Alive. And Michael starts doing a different song, but then once they realize what the song is, then Nard Dog comes in with like the high Bee Gees voice. And you can't go wrong.
Oh, Michael starts with singing "I Will Survive." He's like, at first I was afraid, I was petrified.
And then Dwight has the face. He like peels the face off of the doll and wears it.
Yes.
Yeah. He's gonna harvest the organs.
Yeah.
I think that's, and this will come up in The Convict. That's a piece that I like where, there's the element where Michael's going way too far with something, or in this case, Dwight goes like way too far with something, but then everybody else in the cast just kind of like eggs it on a little, or like jumps into the thing, making it more ridiculous. So Dwight shouts out like, find out if he's an organ donor. And someone's like, he is an organ donor. Like they're in on the pretend with him. And that happens in The Convict a lot too.
So wait, we still have the wrong episode, because that is the same as the fire drill, and the CPR are the same episode. Safety training is when they're in.
It's the one where Michael, they're talking about safety down in the warehouse. And Daryl is kind of like, you guys don't have to worry as much about safety up here. Down where we are, that's where the real danger is. And so then Michael starts talking about like stress and everything, and then he acts like he's going to throw himself off the building, which he's really planning on doing, but it's going to be landing into a bouncy castle.
And it's the one where he keeps he keeps insisting that he can use the baler.
Mm-hmm.
And Daryl's like, no, you can't use the baler. And he keeps trying to find like scenarios where he can finally get away with using the baler. And they're just like, no.
Well, we'll keep talking down, then we'll hop back to vote. We have Beach Games, which is up against Goodbye Michael. And Bonnie made such a good point in the chat that like Pam is great in Beach Games. She said, I love Pam great in Beach Games, so much personal growth. So that's if we don't remember where she like ends up walking, no one can walk across the hot coals. And then when no one's paying attention, Pam walks across the coals. And that's when that scene where she goes to the bonfire and kind of just like spills her guts, which is just like a really great scene.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I also like, isn't that where they're in the sumo or in Andy's in the sumo suit?
Yeah. He gets knocked into the river or whatever.
Oh man.
And Kevin says, what does he say about hot dogs? I just want to lay and eat hot dogs.
That's all I've ever wanted.
And that's up against Goodbye Michael.
So one of the things that I like about Goodbye Michael is that like it always seems like in any given episode, it goes from Michael being like a jerk, a doofus, whatever. And then by the end of the episode, you're like, oh, I guess he's not that bad. He does care about these folks. And this episode is kind of like taking that over the course of the entire show. Like the whole show, he's a doofus. Like the whole series, like he's a doofus. He does stuff that's really cringeworthy. But in the end, this entire episode, it's just about him trying to have a good memory and a good moment with every single person that he worked with. And like, especially at the end when Pam, she's like out watching a movie and stuff like that, because everybody thinks that the following day is Michael's last day, because he doesn't want to say goodbye to everybody. He just wants to have like a good moment with everybody and then leave. So Pam like chases him down in the airport, and it's like one of those like cool things where they go back to the original conceit of the show, and he like takes off his microphone, and it's like, oh yeah, these folks are supposed to be filming a documentary about working in a paper company. And like he takes it off, but then you can't hear what he and Pam say to each other. And yeah, it's just like a sweet moment.
I like that too, with the twist at the end that it's not, that it is his last day. And it's kind of, I guess you can say it's selfish because he just wants his moments, but it's also kind of selfless. Like he just wants everyone to have a normal day. He doesn't need a fuss. He just wants
which is the same Michael Scott that got a foot injury and then
exactly
to care.
Yeah.
But it was seasons later. He evolved.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a really sweet. It's nice because it is about Michael Scott leaving, but it also kind of highlights he has these moments with each of the characters. So it's kind of like a nice glimpse of those relationships with the whole cast. Okay, and then we'll talk about these next 4, and then we'll go back and vote this left side. Okay, so we're saying good things about. Go ahead. Do you have anything more to add for
that? We have to my knowledge, first time Zoom attendant of DZ just entered, and he should totally take himself off.
What's up, DZ?
And video. Hi, Derek. Anyway.
No pressure. You don't have to, man.
Don't know how to do this. I'm figuring it out. It's on my phone. Give me a second.
Trying to put you out there.
Sorry. No, I can't turn my thing off. Sorry.
I normally would call someone out, but you played at concerts of thousands of people, so I don't think that it's a shy thing.
No, I can't figure out this damn button.
All right, I'll go back to the bracket.
Okay, well, we're about to talk about the matchup of the Dundies against the episode, which is called The Convict. And we're saying only positive things. So I'll jump in on the Dundies. I really love the Dundies. It's the season 2 opener, and I think it's where the tone really got established. I think that you have all of a sudden, season 1 was, is this the Michael Scott show? How is Michael Scott different than the UK office? Michael Scott's really all over the place. But season 2, it's like, oh, there's a whole other cast. And I think when The Office started leaning into everybody else in the show is when the show got much more depth and much better, right? Everyone can be funny. This is not the Michael Scott show. And so I think the Dundies, it's like they let Pam be really funny. They let other people sort of come out of the woodwork. And that's why I think that's one thing that I really like about the Dundies. And I like the Dundies because it's one of the best jokes is that Pam gets the cleanest sneakers award or whatever it's called, which is a joke that came from taking away something that was putting someone down. Because I think a lot of times humor in this show comes at the expense of someone else. And so that was Michael Scott making the choice not to do something at her expense. And it was one of the better jokes. And so, yeah, I just really like it it's like, if we're thinking of overall great Office episodes, I think this is one that sort of set the tone for what we like from The Office.
Yeah.
I'll say that a bit earlier, Ryan, you said Casino Night is where Pam and Jim kissed for the first time, but it was actually at the Dundies.
Yes, that's correct.
It's not on purpose on his part, but
yeah,
that's when it happened, which was a cute moment, I guess.
Yeah, it was cute.
And The Convict. Does anyone have any love for The Convict or can pile on for Dundies?
Well, you said about all of it for Dundies. Like, yeah, I co-sign everything that you said.
Yeah, it was great.
It's funny.
I will say, oh, good.
The Dementors line is funny. This is the positive round, so I can say that, I guess.
Yeah, well, and going back to like, there's times where Michael Scott's this like fish just like flopping around on the deck. Like he is saying terrible things. People are cringing. It works best when the rest of the people are making jokes at him. When the rest of the people are sort of mocking him in that, I think. And The Convict is one where like, he has this, horribly stereotypical convict, Mike jumps out, but then Jim's saying like, well, what are you in for? And like them asking him questions that he gives increasingly stupid answers to. They're like just giving him more rope to hang himself by. And I think that's where the cringiness can kind of sort of work out.
Also, it's interesting. It's written by Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant, which makes, they were the original writers of season 1, and that this episode makes sense to go with their humor of like, they're just kind of going for cringe in and of itself. And yeah, you can feel that tone, I think. Now that I know that is, it makes sense.
Makes a little more sense, right?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, DZ, you got it. It's good to see your face.
Sorry. Yes, it is good to see your face too. I do think the Prison Mike one is super duper funny, even though, you know, culturally inappropriate and all. You can't not laugh at it. It's a thing that once you see it, you laugh at it, and then you keep laughing at it. It's unfortunate, but it's funny.
Yeah. I think because the rest of the room, you see them being like how ridiculous it is. I think that helps. It helps because then really Michael's the only asshole there.
Yeah, I love it. I love how awkward it is. And did they make the did they make the medals out of the yogurt caps for the Dundies? Is that the same episode?
That's the Office Olympics. Yeah,
Ah,
which is like my favorite. I can't wait to talk about that.
Cool.
So we have one more matchup in this side, and it's the finale up against, which is like the whole series finale up against Casino Night. So if anyone wants to throw in for either of those.
Finale's good. I think it's I was wondering when we were talking about it the first time, is it one of the better finales of TV? Is it up there? Like, does it hold its own as just a finale of all the finales? But I think it's fun to see everybody happy, and there's kind of little conflict to my memory. Because it's the wedding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's the wedding and them watching the actual broadcast.
Yeah.
It's Dwight and Angela, which then you wonder, are they still filming? Why are they still filming? That gets meta, but
yeah.
But I will say that they kind of, with so much cast turnover, right? Michael leaves, different bosses, different things. They did a really good job buttoning up the whole series, because they had to like bring people back in, you know, they had to kind of navigate that. And I think they did a good job with that, having like, you know, Michael Scott having departed seasons prior. Yeah.
And I feel like they have some good closure to a couple of different characters, especially with Kelly and Ryan, because they weren't in the season at all up until that point. And then they come in, Kelly's married, and Ryan has either adopted a baby or like taken charge of a baby somehow. And then they run away together and leave the baby with Kelly's husband, which I feel is perfect for them. Like, they are like, they're very selfish throughout the entire show and obsessed with each other. And like, it's just a perfect way for that to end.
That is funny.
And also, I love the line from Michael where he says, "I feel like all my kids grew up and then they married each other. It's every parent's dream."
I thought his presence in that episode was perfect. He didn't take, because by that point, this is a larger conversation, but a lot of people slam the show and say that it went downhill after Michael left. I thought it still held its own and was still a good show, and everybody kind of got a new identity without Michael there. So I think it still held up as a show. And in that last episode, they could have had him come back and basically steal the show back and do his Michael Scott stuff and, you know, take more attention. But I think they had him in there just enough to like have fond memories. He doesn't come back in any kind of obnoxious way. It's all really like heartfelt and nice.
It's the sweetest way that he ever says, "That's what she said."
Yeah. So I thought that was perfect, and it still allowed everybody else the attention that they deserved for a finale.
I will say, so some love for Casino Night. I think it was, so if the Dundies was the episode where they really started to lean into the other characters, Casino Night was a really great episode where each character got their own thing. Like, each they were sort of highlighted, every single one of them, in ways that like really typified who they are on the show. And Michael's sort of getting into trouble was really, and only directed back at him. Like it was real, like other than Jan was let down in that, but for the most part, like no one was really harmed by his stupidity there, which is like a more fun way to enjoy him when he's being stupid. And it was if you had been watching the show, the fact that Jim and Pam have an intention, well, I guess, I don't know if she intentionally kissed him there, but he came in to kiss her. But that like was such a huge moment that like everyone was talking about. And so in the will they, won't they, that was like the big moment.
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say that's the height of the will they, won't they.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bonnie's exactly right. She says the casino night was very dramatic for viewers who are obsessed with Jim and Pam. So, so it was, this is a really tough matchup because both of them move the plot of the show forward, like, or one wrapped up the whole thing. One really launched the whole plot, right? Because Jim and Pam, then you ride that out for seasons. So, yeah,
and also that was a season finale, so it's like a cliffhanger, and you come back the following season, and he's not even there anymore.
Right.
Like,
right. Yeah, so they're both really great. But I just wanted to give a love to Casino Night. So we got to talk through this side. If anyone wanted to throw anything in, you can. If not, we can jump and start to vote. So Derek, this probably easiest thing for you to do if you can pull up chat. I don't know what you got going on your phone. Oh, we lost him.
It appears that we lost Derek.
Yeah,
well.
I'll throw in one more for Casino Night, is that I love the reveal that Kevin has a World Series of Poker bracelet. Because up until that point, he said like everyone's just kind of typifying their character, and he just goes way out because you think he's this complete moron, and he's just like, oh yeah, I played this.
But what's great is then he loses. And he goes right back to being the like complete loser, which is like exactly
well, he loses to Phyllis just like calling for funsies, and he's trying to play a math game, which hits me right where I live as a poker player who has played poker with his wife for the last time.
So then it ends up being like then just really right back to Kevin, which is like you in the one area you'd get to shine, you didn't even get to shine.
Right. True.
Okay, so we have votes for dinner party up versus safety training.
And that's 7, so that's probably all.
I think that's going to be tough to come back from.
Dinner party. Beach games and goodbye, Michael.
The one that I missed for beach games was that Michael asked Pam to cook 800 hot dogs, which would be 66 to 67 hot dogs for each person at the table.
Man.
And Goodbye Michael was a great episode. I mean, it's gonna win, but Goodbye Michael was a great episode. But I'll talk about it later. Then when I shit on it, that's fine. Never mind.
All right.
Something to look forward to.
Yes.
All right, moving on. The Dundies and the convict, not conflict.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head, Em, wherever you said that this episode, like it was they'd only had 5 episodes up until this point, and the Dundies like really set the tone for the rest of the series. That like, it's not just going to be the Michael Scott show. Like they were going to let other people shine, and yeah.
And then this one's the toughest one yet, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going for the feels. Could come back. Probably not now. All right.
I think Casino Night moves on.
All right.
Okay. Over to the other side. that it? Yeah.
All right. So yeah, injury against the surplus. Does anybody have anything to say about either of these? I know that we talked about the injury a lot before.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just add, I love the injury because it is, it's such a ridiculous premise. Like, it's just so, just even like as he describes what happens and like what's happened there, like that alone is totally hilarious. So utterly ridiculous premise. And he and Dwight both injure themselves in ways that they would absolutely also make sense that they'd injure themselves. So like, these are the kind of characters where like, it is not, everyone accepts that this is how Michael Scott injured himself, which tells you so much about who Michael Scott is, right? And everyone, like, you don't doubt for a second that Dwight drove away so fast that he gave himself a concussion trying to get to Michael. So I think that lends to like the characters that were developed that they could like do these things. And then there was also some really sweet moments, like Pam kind of looking out for Angela because she's noticed that Angela is developing feelings for Dwight and letting her know that Dwight's okay. And, Jim sort of jumping in to look out for each other. And then the sweetness that comes from like a little bit of a temporary friendship between Dwight and Pam. So like, I just think that I think that this episode has a lot of what makes The Office The Office.
And with the surplus, it's a solid episode. It's a good episode. It's not it wasn't a number one seed, but it has some funny moments, and it does a good job of kind of showing Michael's cravenness, which I feel like they do that a lot sometimes. But when Michael finds out that he gets 10% or 15% of the surplus as a bonus, if there is a surplus, all of a sudden he completely changes his mind. And but still ultimately, even after he's been craven and like been a jerk and everything, he does what's right for everybody there.
I love the moment when accounting stops and they're like, wait, don't you? Because they realize, oh, wait a minute, there's a reason he's trying to talk us out of both of these things. That's pretty fun.
And he's like, what's 15% of 4,300? And he says it right away. And then he says, what's 15% of 200, which would obviously be easier because that's a round number. And he has no idea.
He also says dollars, which they weren't even asking in dollars.
I think that's Oscar and Michael are maybe my favorite matchup. I think they like, ironically, Oscar plays a straight character to Michael's craziness. But I think that's one of the best dynamics on the show. Like, Oscar's just like, don't you?
So I've been watching on YouTube Live this whole time, but I came in to say hi. I came in to say that in the surplus, Jenna Fischer does an impression of a chair. I don't know if you remember, like an office chair, and she's like, the one that Michael has goes shh, and like just her impression of an office chair deflating, going up and down gets me every time. I don't know why. She's not a person who does impressions a lot, so it just really kills me every time.
I don't even remember that.
Well, and I also kind of like that episode because Jim and Pam are usually a team against Dwight or a team against somebody else. And in this episode, Jim and Pam are against each other. So it's kind of fun to see that dynamic of them like pull out their big guns to like bring each other down. Also, Madison, stick around. I like seeing you.
Is that the one too where like Pam gets real up close to Jim and is like, watch your back or something like that?
He brings her tiramisu and she just dumps it in the garbage.
Oh, I forgot all about that. And then at the end, he comes up and he's like, I need you to make these copies for me.
And That's also the episode where Michael also has tiramisu, and he calls up David Wallace to ask him to decide what they should do, and that's when he finds out about the bonus that he would get. But he's eating the tiramisu as he's calling him, and as soon as David Wallace gets on the phone, he starts choking on the dust on top of the tiramisu, and then instead of not eating it, he goes back to eat it again, and then starts choking again while he's talking to his boss.
But I had to watch that carefully to be like, is he really choking? Like, did he really choke and then they just went with it?
All right, well, let's keep going with positives, and let's jump to Michael Scott Paper Company episode, which is Up Against Office Olympics.
Like I mentioned before, I think it's so cool that during that episode, the intro is completely the intro is the same as it is as it is in a normal episode, but it all takes place at the Michael Scott Paper Company.
So there's a few of Michael Scott Paper Company episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, aren't there like maybe 3 where there's still?
Yeah.
I think this is the first of the 3.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's this one, the one where they realize they're broke, and then the one where they get the offer, I think.
Okay. And then there's the one where they're like recruiting their sales team. Or is that this one?
I think that might be this one.
That might be this one. I'm not sure.
I just like all of the Paper Company ones. It's like, I don't know if it's Ryan at his grossest, but it's up there.
He's got frosted tips, so that's
Ryan at his
It's
blondest.
Ryan in the real mood. Yeah.
He's just completely regressed. Like, any positive forward momentum he's made is just all the way back. He's like the frosted tips, he's always on his phone. He's like, I'm texting. Like, he actually comes out and says, I'm texting, like, I can't answer you. He's so nasty to Pam. It's kind of amusing.
That's the one interesting thing about his character. Like, it seems like every season except for probably the first one, he's like a different kind of like cringy person, but you believe that he could do that because he's such a shallow person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can totally believe that he would become like the CEO or COO, whatever he was, and like just be completely dismissive of everybody and vapid. But then also you can believe that he would be like super hipster trying to make woof and have like all of these different ways of communicating coming together and stuff. And yeah.
Well, I've been jumping at the bit to talk about Office Olympics because I just love it so much. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful that like they each in their little pods have games that they play in boredom. And so like they each have these little like things that they do with their own little areas. I love that. I love like Flonkerton and that Phyllis comes out and jumps in and does it. And like, you know, and everyone's encouraging things that I think would have maybe caused jokes or to be mocked. There's like with Michael being out of the office, there's kind of this like freedom for them to like shove a bunch of M&Ms in their mouth and there's no fat jokes, or like Phyllis to get up on top of blocks and no one's kind of talking about her coordination. It's just like they're all cheering each other on. And maybe I'm just like, I don't know, super cheesy like that. I also think though, you know, the things that make Michael Scott are sort of still happening. He has this like emotional breakdown about buying a house. So he ends up acting like just totally crazy in buying this house, which is very typical Michael Scott, to be overconfident and then very insecure and ill-informed. That's like the Michael Scott trifecta. And you see all of that in him going to buy a house and him freaking out. And even when he picks on Dwight in that part of the episode, it's kind of a nice reveal that Dwight really was trying to egg on Michael until his offer to live with Michael was revoked because he owns this huge farm. So like even Dwight was in on it, does that make sense? So, and I think there's this really like earned emotional moment of Michael had like a tough day and, trying to be a grown up, and that's hard for Michael. And he comes back to the office and they give him a yogurt cup lid without explanation, give him a yogurt cup lid and stand him on a pack of papers, and he starts to cry because he feels so loved. It's like, I don't know. I just think there's like so much about this episode that's great. And I remember even when it came out and just thinking like how hilarious all of those games are, and they would have those games. So yeah, I love it.
I have teared up watching Michael tear up in that episode because it's just so genuine.
It is. He's truly touched by this thing that is. There's like origami doves flying behind him. He has no questions, like as if that was a normal thing that you would do for your boss if they bought a house. He doesn't even question it. He just loves that they care about him.
Well, I think it's a big thing for Jim too, that he doesn't go in for the obvious, like snarky kind of like take you down when he realizes that Michael is feeling a certain sort of way. He just is just like, I know we can do this. So it's definitely a feel good episode all around.
And you see the beginnings of Jim, who like has the drive to do a lot if he cares about what's happening. And yeah, so like there's that, piece of it too. I think everyone's at their best in that episode.
And they don't really openly come out and say it. Kind of back to what you were saying about Michael's not there, so he's not going to be making fun of anybody. Also, at the same time, like, sure, the boss is gone, but part of it probably is Michael's not going to try and steal the show. Like, he's not going to try and be like, oh, I'm going to win every event. Like, it's just everybody being able to like have a good time and stuff.
I feel like that's and why I like this episode too is I feel like of all of the episodes, they get a little too outside of reality. But like everybody's been in an office where you play stupid games with your office mates. And like when the boss is out on a Friday, you do kind of just hang out and do stupid things for the day. Like it's kind of a real life premise for once. And some of these episodes are a little kind of too far out there to be reality. I know it's a TV show, but I like the fact that this still has some semblance of like a normal office environment.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, let's keep moving down the line, and we have Cafe Disco against Booze Cruise. So we got to say a couple lovely things about Cafe Disco already, but we can add on if anyone has anything.
I'm always kind of on the fence about Ellie Kemper's character. Just because they kind of seem to like vacillate back and forth between whether she is like just a nice person or whether she's just like complete twit. So I think this is a good one because it kind of shows just that like she's just a fun-loving person when she comes down to like go to the party, and I think she ends up like inviting a friend. So I think it's the first episode with her, even though it's only a little bit into that season. I like to see that progression there.
Yeah, and I think it has a similar vibe as Office Olympics does, where it's taking place in the office, but it's one of the moments where they get to cut loose and have fun among their coworkers.
I also think it's a great moment because they finally like get Angela to come down, and she's like trying to clean up, and I think Michael says to her like, "You can't be cleaning." She's like, "You want me to have fun or not?" It's just like implying that her idea of having fun is cleaning up. So that's.
And I know we're trying to say like all nice things. Does anyone have anything good to say about Booze Cruise?
So I said earlier that I hadn't seen this until last night. Like, I don't know why I had missed it the couple times that I've watched the series before. And like probably the best thing that I can say for it is it's kind of an important episode in like just setting things up for the rest of the storyline with Jim and Pam for like the rest of the season. Is it the funniest episode? I don't think that it is, but it just like Jim breaks up with Amy Adams. Pam and Roy set a wedding day. Jim finally tells somebody else in the office how he feels, and Michael encourages him, but then also that kind of sets into motion like the least reliable person in the office now knows your big secret. So that also kind of like drives stuff, and especially the next couple episodes, but for the rest of that season.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup because I think Cafe Disco isn't necessarily a plot mover episode. You know, Michael Scott Paper Company has wrapped up. It's kind of like a breather between that and like what starts to happen next. But it's really enjoyable and it's funny, and whereas Booze Cruise maybe doesn't hit the same, but it's a plot mover episode.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna just be up to what the voters want, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a huge Amy Adams fan, and I really liked seeing her on Booze Cruise, and I liked seeing how she and Roy had that like football player cheerleader thing going on, and then Jim and Pam really had that moment of, wow, we are not the people that we brought to this. And I thought that was a nice little moment to see that build up getting into their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so last matchup. We got Fun Run going up against Niagara. Anything for either of those?
Fun Run just had so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Andy and his nipples.
It's the first thing I think of every single time I hear Fun Run.
Oh, for me, it's the fettuccine. It's the carbo.
Oh.
He stopped drinking water and he ate fettuccine Alfredo just before running.
Also that they didn't make it a loop. So Toby like wins in the end, and it's just Kelly sitting there at a table on her phone, and he's like, "Where are we?" He's like, "You couldn't have made it a loop," and they just decided to make it point A to point B. Oh my god! Gosh. Also, well, wait, can you clarify for me? Meredith really has rabies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that they found that like they ran tests or something when she came into the hospital from getting hit by the car, so then Michael Scott's like, then he goes off on like, oh, I really saved her life.
But she does really have rabies. No one like.
She got rabies from the bat.
She didn't get rabies. She got bit by the bat that was on her head. That when Dwight trapped her.
Dwight put a trash bag around it and hit her with the broom.
Yeah. She got bit by the bat, but I don't think she actually had rabies.
That's what I'm confusing. Like, did someone just misunderstand that she had rabies, or does her character actually have rabies? Because I think you die from that, don't you?
You can get lockjaw, but they can catch it early, I think.
Okay. Maybe they caught it early.
So matter of fact.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, and the other thing I love about that is another example of like very similar to Office Olympics, you know, so Jim and Pam are just walking through this 5K, they stop at a yard sale and get a lamp. And then at the very end of it, Michael is so defeated and ready to quit, and they encourage him to finish, and they hand him the lamp as a trophy, and he takes it as if it is. Anyway. Okay, so and that's up against Niagara, which is Jim and Pam's wedding.
I would say when I was thinking about this one, I was thinking like one of those great like clinching arguments you could make is that like Dwight gets to have sex in this episode and then realize just a few hours later that I completely forgot about the entire storyline with him and Angela. So it wasn't that great. But I think Pam's cousin, one of her bridesmaids that he ends up like hooking up with, and she's still like way out of his league, that's for sure. So good on Dwight for that one, whatever points that's worth. But he's also kind of a dick too, so never mind. Points taken away.
Well, and then Michael Scott hooks up with Pam's mom, right?
Pam's mom for the first time, yeah.
It's also the one where where Kevin, his shoes get stolen.
Mm-hmm.
They get thrown out. He puts them out for cleaning, and they say they smelled so bad they knocked out the cleaner. So he ends up walking down the aisle with tissue boxes on his feet.
I'll tell you, I'm not even exaggerating. A life-changing moment as a lifelong ice eater. I love eating ice and would always love going to hotels and eating out of the ice machine. That scene where Kevin puts his sweaty, nasty feet in the ice. Oh, never again. Never, ever again.
Coupled with the fact that he said, "My dogs are barking."
All right. Well, I think we have. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm a sucker for every wedding. Like weddings, I have been +1s to where I don't know the bride or groom. I end up crying anyway. So that whole episode just gives me all the feels.
Yeah, I mean, and it is like such a celebration because like we said, back at casino night, it launches the whole will they, want they, and this is them getting married, right? So you really felt like you've been on that whole process with them together. So yeah, it's for sure emotional. And I would honestly say, like, if the series ended there, that would have been a good series finale.
That's actually always what I thought was going to happen. I thought that once Jim and Pam got together, they would have like a couple episodes to wrap it up, and that would be the series.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's vote it on through. I don't know if anyone wants to look in the chat, there's a link to the voter that the.
I can put it again. Also, we had KTT for a second, and I don't know where you went.
All right. I know what I want here.
The discussion changed my mind on this one, I will say.
Yeah.
Where did you end up going?
I would have gone the injury, but I think I went the surplus because there was a lot of funny moments in that. It didn't matter, but that's what happened.
Well, and we didn't even talk about Michael's fur coat.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, we didn't even talk about it.
The one part of the injury that we didn't talk about was when Jim is spraying Dwight in the car like he's a cat.
Whoops, sorry. Oh my goodness. All right, we'll move on.
All right, yeah.
Oh,
and that'll probably do it.
No happy friends.
All right, let's go on.
All right. Okay. So the little episode that could beat a 1 seed and keeps going on. Good for you, Cafe Disco. This matchup, this next one for me feels the hardest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like funny premise versus like emotional. Like one is just more ridiculously wonderful and one's more emotionally earned. And I think both things are great about The Office. And I don't know where I lean. I think, are we waiting on my vote though? Am I going to ruin it?
Oh, I thought.
If you haven't voted, then yeah, that's what we're waiting on.
Okay, so we both did Conrad.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, I wasn't the only one.
I did too.
How did we have 8 for that one? We only had 5 for the last vote.
I haven't been voting because I'm filling in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we just zoomed past.
No pun intended.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's hop in. This round, we are going to talk negative. So each one, we're going to have like 1-2 minute max. So we're not going to go too long in this, but if anyone has anything negative to say, then this is the round to do it. So we'll look at each one and share why that should not be the best Office episode. So if we hop up to the top left, we have Dinner Party, which is going to go up against Goodbye Michael.
Once again, you're not allowed to say anything positive about the other one. You're only allowed to say negative stuff about the one we're talking about.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to jump in on Dinner Party.
I don't like Dinner Party because I think I have a problem with Jan, and I don't know why. She does a good job serving her purpose, which is to just be like a buzzkill to everything that is Michael. And I'm not one to normally want to defend Michael, but she's really mean to him. And it's out of her own unhappiness, I think. And she just puts him down to like compensate for that. And that's like the ultimate of all the meanness that happens. There's like funny mean on the show and silly mean and not really mean, just kind of teasing. But I think she's like the meanest to him because it's like it's just like a pure mistreatment of him. So as funny as Dinner Party can be in moments, and certainly the other like plots that are going on and stuff, they're great. And it is fun to see the cast all just like playing with each other, but
nothing positive.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, that was
Jan's a bitch.
It is. She's the devil.
I was actually thinking about this earlier, because nothing positive. This is my favorite episode though. But
No.
I mean, Jan is straight up abusive to Michael. Like if the genders were switched, I think people would have had a huge problem with this episode. So that is a huge problem. But then at the end, we see Michael's friends rally around him. I know nothing positive, but like, I think that's where it balances out. But she is abusive to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the real like painful part right now in 2021 with what's going on is somebody trying to sell you their candles. Oof. It's a hard thing to watch.
Let's talk about Goodbye Michael. Besides it not really being that funny, what don't we like about Goodbye Michael?
Well, not that it's a bad episode, but it shouldn't be the best Office episode because it's not like The Office, right? Mm-hmm. It's not in any way what a typical episode is like. And Michael Scott acts so far out of character. Not that being heartfelt is out of character, because he can be heartfelt, but just like not wanting any attention feels not Michael Scott at all. And having just like it be only tearful goodbyes is, it's sweet and it lands, but it doesn't feel like anything that I would say gives you all the pieces that you want in an Office episode. It's really just the kind of the one. So that's why I don't think it should move on.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of without the other, it can't stand alone as an episode. Like you just, like you said, you just like, it's not a standard episode. You would lose out on you need a lot of the rest of the show to inform why that episode's good.
Yeah. And some of the stuff that he does, like we say that like it's heartfelt and everything, but some of the stuff is pretty shallow. Like I think that with Kelly, he says like, would you like me to leave you alone? And she's like, yes. And then he walks away. Like that's kind of funny, but it's not like he's having this heartfelt moment with every single person. Like they skimp on some stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think the fact that it's his goodbye episode automatically kind of takes some points away from me, just because it's like you expect it to be a good episode when it's a character leaving the show. It's kind of like saying, oh, the third encore at that concert was the best song that they played. It's like, well, yeah, it's supposed to be. It's the last one. It's kind of, phoned in.
I've never seen it, and I don't really plan to at this point. Like, I had to be honest, I've never seen the episode, and I don't really care to. So I don't know if that means anything.
Since it's this round, Neil, don't. It's complete shit, man.
Yeah, terrible TV.
Well,
All
what
right,
about
well-
the Dundies? Anything bad you can say about the Dundies?
This isn't about the episode itself, but I'm not a fan of the early ones, I guess. Like, because this is season 2, right?
This is the first episode of season 2. Yeah.
I think it feels dated. Like the show still feels a little sad to me in the early ones before they all kind of become caricatures, which is its own. You could have criticism of that too, that they kind of become caricatures of themselves, but I don't know. They don't feel as fun. They don't feel as familiar to me. So just in general, I don't like the earlier ones, and I don't get too psyched about this Dundies. But somebody else can pile on too.
I feel like this is one where there's just like, there is no way this would ever happen. Like, I can't imagine an actual establishment letting any of this ever take place in reality. I just can't imagine. Or the employees who somewhat seem to know what's about to happen actually showing up.
Yeah.
Right. They're not mandated to be there. They're not being paid to be there. Why would you go? I guess because they thought they were going to get free drinks, but they don't even get free drinks. So
Yeah.
rip off.
I think probably because Michael Scott would be intolerable if you didn't.
He's kind of intolerable if you do. Like, I don't know. It's like
It's true. That's true.
I mean, unless Applebee's is really the only thing going on in
Chili's.
Scranton, or Chili's, then I guess, I don't know.
No, but I think that's it's a good critique.
Mm-hmm.
Casino
Casino night.
night. Ugh. Can I just say
Yeah,
that I'm not a fan of the storyline? Like, I have to admit that when I was watching it in real time, I was like amped for Jim and Pam, and this was like a big moment. But when I watch it now, I really don't like the speech of "I love you," and she says, "I'm engaged, I can't," and then his response is to storm into a room and kiss her. That feels like, now it just seems extra icky. Like, she said no clearly, she said no definitively, and he didn't care. Yeah, I just don't think that ages very well.
Mhm.
Also, I was like, to be fair, so thrilled they got together. So that's two different, me a decade plus apart, but
I still
my
watched it again, got a little swept up, but I wasn't like icked out, but it was kind of like, dude, come on. Like, I didn't feel like it was like, ugh, but it was just sort of like, all right, Jim, she told you, like, get over it. Pam, just more Pam, or not Pam, Jan. I wasn't like into the storyline of her versus Carol, and I thought that was just awkward. It wasn't funny. It was just cringy.
Also goes to very unrealistic that they would have a casino night in the warehouse of the paper factory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there's a Christmas episode where they're like arguing whether they're allowed to have booze at their Christmas party.
Mm-hmm.
But then on this one, they're allowed to bring in roulette tables and poker tables and more booze and neon lights and.
Mm-hmm.
Michael,
and almost the Boy Scout.
I listened to the Office Ladies podcast and they talked about this because they were like, how would the party planning committee have the budget for this even? Like, Angela's always so, panties in a bunch over everything. And I guess somewhere like right at the beginning, they said the office park was having the casino night. And it sounded like Bob Vance Refrigeration was chipping in, and like it was all of the different places. But then Michael just kind of took over as the MC because that's what Michael does.
Well, then that makes a lot more sense. Yeah.
Well, let's go up to the burnt foot region and talk about the burnt foot episode with the injury. And I'll be the first to say, boy, they treat concussions super cavalierly in this episode. Like they act like, oh, this is the funniest thing in the world that Dwight has a concussion. Like, and you know what? The way that they do it, sure, it's funny, but boy, that's not funny. Concussions aren't funny.
Yeah.
And it's not like at the very end of the episode, they're like, oh, it's treatable. Like she like tries to like console Angela that Dwight's gonna be fine. And they're like, it's treatable, they have a treatment. I'm like, no, they for sure damn don't have treatment for a concussion that brings you back in one episode. Like he goes from just typing his name over and over and over again into a computer screen to being like what did they give him?
Mm-hmm.
So it's medically inaccurate is what I'm trying to say.
Not only that, but he's the kind of person that when he gets concussion, he's really, really nice all of a sudden. Like it's just, there's just some stuff about it that is just not super great and not realistic.
Yeah, and there's also the piece of it where, again, we know Michael Zicke, we know he does all this, but him, approaching the guy in a wheelchair to say that he knows what disabilities are because he hurt his foot. It's just like a whole other time where you're just like, oh yeah, oh ouch.
Yeah.
This is really petty, but the thought of Michael leaving out raw bacon overnight just always gets me. Like he sets it out the night before, which means it's there for a solid like 8 to 10 hours. And that's just gross to me. I don't know why.
Yeah. Also, like his flirtation with Ryan, like how he wants Ryan to go to his house. I don't know, something about like him being in it at his most vulnerable. Like he's just on the phone, his foot hurts, and like he either wants Pam or Ryan. Like that, just like hearing Michael like call out for Ryan at his lowest point just really puts a shiver down the back of my spine.
And the worst part is like him asking for Pam, it's not sexual, it's because she'll take care of him. But him asking for Ryan is like, oh, he's going to make Ryan really uncomfortable. Like, don't worry about the young hot secretary. Worry about Ryan.
Oh, my.
All right. So, Em, do you have anything bad to say about Office Olympics?
Not a thing.
Can we run back to the injury? Because, okay, this is a plus thing, and I know I'm not allowed to say, but I don't think we said it before. The pictures of the when the guy in the wheelchair comes in and he puts up all the pictures, and one is Larry Flint in a wheelchair.
Oh, really?
And then Tom Hanks from Forrest Gump, and then he thought he put up a picture of Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, but it was from Big. It's Tom Hanks and the guy on the piano. The piano. And then later on in another episode, they bring the Big picture back and they all point out like, there's that picture of Big again. Why do you keep putting that up? Oh my God.
That's enough positive stuff about that. Let's talk about negative things for the Office Olympics.
All right, the medals are made out of yogurt lids. So there's two possibilities with those. Either they stink like spoiled yogurt or someone licked them clean. Either one of those is unsanitary and I don't want it around my neck.
Well, and also, where did they get all of those all of a sudden?
So many yogurts.
A lot of yogurt lids.
And once you open it, you want to eat that yogurt. So a lot of dairy consumption.
Mm-hmm. Or just saving yogurt lids for a rainy day, which I don't think that happened. The one thing that I'll say about this episode, which I do like the episode, but if there's a way that it's not like a typical Office, it isn't a typical Office episode because like it is Michael Scott away from everybody else, at least for like the first couple seasons. It's not a typical Office episode, but also it isn't super funny. Like there's a lot of stuff where you're like, oh man, that would be a fun thing to do at my work. Like, oh, I like that. But like, it's not like bust your gut kind of funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I'm just trying to keep the conversation going with that. What about Cafe Disco? I'll say one thing about Cafe Disco. Nobody really mentioned Cafe Disco but one person, and it barely got in the bracket. That's the first thing I'll say about Cafe Disco.
Well,
And the first 2 times that we had a chance to say something about it, nobody really had anything to say. It was kind of like the making up point. Like, how did it get this far? Well, it went up against Christmas Party, which we weren't so sure about, and Booze Cruise, which we weren't so sure about. So it's the least worst option right now.
I mean, let's be completely honest. It won the first round because nobody knew what Stress Relief was as an episode.
Because we got the wrong episode. True.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember Cafe Disco. Like, I remember every other episode, and I don't remember Cafe Disco.
Cafe Disco, like, nothing happens. It's a nice episode to be like, oh, look, you guys are all dancing together. That's sweet. But, like, I don't know what else happens in the episode. So, yeah, it's not particularly remarkable.
All right, let's move on to the matchup it's going to win against and talk about Fun Run.
Is there anything bad about Fun Run?
I will say this about Fun Run, and it's a personal hang up. I'll admit that right off the bat. But this is one of those episodes where it's very clear they are not in Scranton, Pennsylvania. They're in California. There's so many of those. Like, you can put a Pennsylvania license plate on the car, but you're very clearly not in Pennsylvania, my friends. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The architecture's all wrong. The skyline's all wrong. Just no.
There's sunshine.
Yeah, it's way too funny.
There's no
Way
coal
too
smoke. There's no.
I will say, for how much I love the 5K run piece of the show, I don't feel so big on the first half of the show where they think there's a curse. And so Michael tries to figure out everybody's religion and grills them all on what religion they are. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not like that episode, that piece of the episode isn't something that I feel like needs to advance or lose. It's just kind of it's just there.
It's definitely forgettable because I do not remember that at all.
Yeah. Right.
I remember Meredith being hit and then them setting up the Fun Run.
They had some double episodes. Like, why did this need to be? And they did it a bunch of like 2 episodes that didn't really seem like they needed to be like a part 1, part 2 kind of thing.
I think the reason I remember it is because the guys getting in the car and driving through it and not actually running it was really relatable to me.
Vaughn, you were going to say something?
I was going to say that the office ladies were talking about Meredith asking Jim to sign her pelvis cast. And they discovered that the pelvis cast isn't even a real thing to treat pelvis injuries. So that was totally medically inaccurate.
I mean, it's like plaster underwear. Like, no, it can't happen.
There's certain issues with that.
All right, well, let's vote these through. Let's figure out what Cafe Disco is going to go up against next round.
Also, Kristen, I was going to say some of these episodes were run like, I forget which one was. Safety Training was released after the Super Bowl. So it was both episodes together aired on the same night after the Super Bowl. So sometimes that they aired them, there was like whatever was going on to boost the ratings. They put back-to-back episodes on the same.
It makes more sense.
There were a lot of double episodes the 4th season, I think it was, because of the writer's strike.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they like crammed a bunch of stuff together and it's kind of like you said, like it didn't really seem like they entirely went together, but they put them together because they needed to squeeze stuff in.
Gotcha. All right, and while we were talking, Dinner Party's gonna go on.
Keep right ahead.
Yeah.
All right.
This one is probably the toughest one so far for me.
It is. I really love both.
I mean, really love both.
Some of them, I really do like both.
If you would have asked me when the show first aired, I would have said one, but now I'm thinking the other.
I'm the same, Ryan. I wonder if we're in the same place. I've grown. One of them has recently edged out the other to me.
Mm-hmm. All right. On the count of three, say the one that is edging it out. 1, 2, 3. Dundies.
We're cousins.
And that's what's gonna go.
All right. And the injury against Office Olympics.
We've had 7, right?
You did. Both really good episodes.
I was just about to say these are two really high ones for me.
Ooh.
Injury.
Wow.
Injuries going on. All right. Good for Toby that he won the fun run.
Good for Toby.
5 kilometers away from this car.
Yeah, right.
Oh man.
I voted for Cafe Disco just out of principle. Just so.
Just that wouldn't be all alone. That's really great.
All right. Well, we have our final 4. And we have 2 episodes from season 2 and 2 episodes from season 4.
All right. All Michael Scott episodes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So in this round, we're going to do 1-minute stump speeches for why whichever one of these you would want to, stand for, should be the best Office episode. So if anyone has anything, this is like, Madison is in her 2nd year of law school. So this would be right up her alley.
Mm-hmm.
Not to call you out, Madison, you don't have to do this, but yeah. So if any of these are ones that you would want to argue for, you can jump out and say it. I think I'll take the injury if no one else wants the injury.
You got it.
All right.
What are the other 2? Dinner party.
Dinner party, the Dundies, and Fun Run.
Can I swap it for Fun Run? Sorry. Sure. I have better things to say about Fun Run.
I'll take dinner party.
And what does that leave?
The Dundies and the injury.
I will do the injury.
All right. I will take the Dundies, which I've been told tonight by somebody who shall remain nameless that I'm pronouncing it wrong. I'm pronouncing it like Crocodile Dundee rather than the Dundies.
A bunch of you have been saying it that way.
I'm saying the Dundies rather than the Dundies.
The Dundies.
Dundies.
Because it's not Dunder Mifflin.
Dunder.
Dun.
All right.
The Dundies. All right. Well, Tim, you're first up with Dinner Party.
Well,
whenever you're ready.
How long do I have? 2 hours?
1 minute.
Oh, just 1 minute. All right. Well, I think that in the Dinner Party, if you were to ask anyone, even like the non-initiated Office fan, name something about The Office, they're probably going to mention the Dinner Party, at least in small part, whether because of the weird conflicts, whether because of Michael's plasma TV that you can barely see on the wall, whether because of the St. Pauli girl sign. So I think even though it seems like exclusionary criteria that this episode of The Office happens almost entirely outside of The Office, it is early on, and it's when we begin to flesh out the characters and you see exactly who everyone really is. You see some of these couples kind of coming together. You see the sexual tension between Jim and Pam, between Michael and Jan, between Dwight and Andy and Angela and their love triangle. So I think there's lots of build-up elements to this episode that kind of made the whole series what it was.
All right, and that's time. That's a good one. Let's see. The if I can add one last thing to Dinner Party, one other thing. I feel like it's a very representative episode of The Office, but also I was talking with somebody today that only saw like a handful of episodes in the first couple of seasons, and I feel like more than any other episode, you can watch this with zero context about the relationships, and it's still going to be funny.
Yeah.
So that's all. All right, who is going to be arguing for the one going up against? Oh, it's me. So the Dundies. The Dundies, like I had said in the last round, the one it was going up against in the matchup, I would have felt like I would have voted for that whenever these first came out. Like I would have voted for what's it called? Casino Night. But Dundies is, like Em said before, it sets the table for the rest of the series. Like other people are going to be able to shine. It's not just Michael, but Michael is trying to steal the show the entire time. It's the first episode where, in my mind, you really see Pam kind of like taking off as a character, and she's like really funny. And like on rewatches, Pam has been like a million times more funny than the first time I went through. And just, yeah, I feel God is in this Chili's tonight.
It's a strong finish.
All right. Next up, we have the injury. And Kristen, are you done the injury?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
I think the injury is good. It's cringy Michael, but it's not the worst he's ever been. It's an absurd premise that he grills his foot. It's very classic. People remember this one. I feel like you can watch it without knowing a whole lot about the rest of the series. It can kind of stand alone. I understand the problems with Dwight having the concussion, but it is fun to see Dwight playing that side of things and just be like pleasant, and people enjoy having him around. It's a fun little dynamic between him and Pam that I feel like kind of informs the rest of their relationship. Even when he goes back to normal, they kind of have a little bit of a bond there. Yeah, it's just kind of classic silliness.
And I love Mindy. Any Mindy episode.
Yeah.
That's the entry.
And last but not least, Em has the fun run.
Okay, guys. This has to be the fun run that wins us all, because the fun run is an episode that is, like Ryan was talking about, like gut laughter funny. The fun run is hilarious. The fun run also advances a lot of plot. So you have Jim and Pam are now dating. You have Dwight and Angela breaking up. You have really sentimental moments of like seeing Jim and Pam together for the first time. You have the like Michael Scott emotional moment where he thinks he can't cross the finish line. So they all like rally to help him out. You have Michael Scott being inappropriate, and you have, just like we said with Casino Night, you have a lot of the characters of the show being them, and hitting their humor notes and their character notes. But I think all of it's done better than it's done at Casino Night. You also have Andy's now in the mix, and more of the Office people cast that you get to know over the whole series. So I think on every single metric of what you like about the Office in this episode.
All right, let's put it to a vote.
Okay.
Good job.
Here we go.
I got yeah.
Oh man. Hold on. I didn't save it. Try that again. There we go. Okay.
Is no one?
There we go.
You have the results up, okay? I'm
Oh,
really
yeah.
torn
Oh,
on it.
I forgot I took off screen sharing. Katie's gonna watch this and just shake her head.
Up and down, like, yes.
This
has been great.
There we go. Sorry, I'm seeing all of the drama. Here we go.
Mhm. That is some drama.
Oh.
Oh, no, this is the best part. This is thrilling.
Mhm.
So I have not voted.
No pressure.
I'm not mad about either. I think our final four are really well done, everybody.
Yeah, for sure.
To be honest, these two are probably my top two.
And that was 8.
Mhm.
So 8 votes just pushed it a little farther. So we'll go ahead and move on. Oh gosh. What?
This is probably the toughest matchup that we've had, I think.
That Alfredo. It's the Alfredo that really tips it for me.
That's how he says it, isn't it? Doesn't he say like carb bloating or something like that? Like he doesn't even know what he's saying.
Like I'm carbo loading. Like he's just grabbing buzzwords that he's heard from people who work out.
All right. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got Dinner Party Against Fun Run, 2 episodes from season 4 and the final.
Interesting.
It is. That's when it really gets good, I think. Right around there.
Yeah, they've added the couple extra characters with Andy and, well, at that point, Rashida Jones is gone. She was only on for the 1 season.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Madison, I know you said Dinner Party is your favorite. Why is it your favorite?
So I am not great at eloquently calling out the details like you are. Fun Run, that was a great synopsis. But Dinner Party just has so many layers. Like you see, it starts with Michael, corporate's making everyone stay, and he has this elaborate plan just to make people be his friend. And then he, sticks it to corporate and he's like, I'm standing up for all of you. By the way, Jim, you're free tonight now because I told you you had to work. And Jim's like, oh, damn it. Like he was trapped. And then you see Jim and Pam show up, and then, Jim pulls his brilliant Jim thing and he's like, oh, my apartment's flooding. And then Michael's like, oh, Pam doesn't need to go. And Jim is about to throw Pam under the bus. Jim is like, yeah, I'm going to abandon her. And I love seeing those flawed moments in Jim because everyone just adores Jim. And I like seeing the human side of him and those moments where you're like, wow, he's not that great a guy sometimes, And the candle thing just really gets me because I have been a target of many multi-level marketing schemes lately. And that part is just so cringy. And there's just so many good little one-liners. And then Dwight and his babysitter. And there's just so much. And then the song with Hunter. And then the fact that Jim steals it. And there are so many things that happen. I never stop laughing because I haven't finished laughing from the last joke when the next one happens. And I live for cringe too. Cringe doesn't bother me. So I think that's why I really just love it.
Well, and the show is cringe. That's what the show is like. So a cringy episode, this is The Office. So like to say, well, it's cringy, it shouldn't necessarily be disqualifying. It should be the thing that qualifies it in a way.
And I do love at the end because we see how horrible Michael's relationship is. And I do love at the end when, Jan gets physical. Everyone is like, wow, this is really bad. And Michael's friends kind of rally around him and people who really didn't want to be there that night, besides Dwight really wanting to be there. But, Jim, who that was the last place he wanted to be, recognizes that his friend is in trouble and still has that sensitivity to want better for him. and that's where it's recuperated a little bit, and I like seeing that too.
There's a lot of quotes that we mentioned from this episode, but there's 3 that we haven't yet that I'm just going to say real quick and I'll be done.
Yes.
After the part where Jim's about to leave, Pam has what I think is the funniest line in the entire series when she says, like, just her delivery is so good. She goes, "You can buy new stuff, but you can't buy a new party." Like, and it's like her delivery is so funny in that moment. There's that. There's Michael taking a sip of wine and saying it has an oaky afterbirth. And right after the vasectomy talk, Michael said, "I bought this condo to fill with children."
I thought you were also going to say when Michael is dipping his steak in the wine and he's like, I have soft teeth.
That's
These are actually 2 interesting episodes to be against each other because they're both like really about the details in the writing, the details in the sets and costume. In Fun Run, I noticed that it's right after Sprinkles dies and Angela has a Sprinkles t-shirt on, and just like the details of like what everybody chooses to wear when they run. But it's also funny, like Dinner Party is about like the claustrophobic feeling of just being stuck in this house with all of these people, and you can feel like the tension and the tightness, and that can be funny if that's your style of funny. Or against Fun Run, which is like out in the open, it's just like there's no set or props, they're just running on the streets. It all is like down to just the things they're saying and the way their character is, and like that can have its own kind of like feeling too, of just like everybody's just running, we're just having fun, just running. Or I guess there's a secondary location where they all go to have drinks instead of running, but they're kind of like the best of the opposite, or the best of the office in opposite ways, I think.
I think this is a tough matchup against each other because the Dinner Party is just so tight with like joke after joke after joke after joke. And it's a great episode of television, period. The Fun Run is an episode where everyone is the most themselves, or so all these characters have like really great moments as what these characters are. So it like typifies The Office if you wanted to show somebody like what is The Office like, what is it about. Like I think you get a good glimpse into every character with this episode, and it has more, it has, there's fewer people in the Dinner Party episode, but like which episode is better? Probably Dinner Party. Which episode is more Office? Maybe Fun Run? I don't know. So I'm feeling like very back and forth on it.
Mm-hmm. I have one last thing to say before we put it to a vote. Took me by the hand, made me a man. That one night made everything all right. And I'm going to leave it at that.
That's pretty good.
It's not the first time I've sang it, Kristen. Ask Bonnie.
And it's not the first time you're singing. May sway the whole room to vote for a winner.
What I'll say too, I think points. Paul, is it Feig? F-I-E?
Yeah.
Feige.
He directed some of the best of these episodes, and he directed this one, which I think is. You can tell. I don't know anything about directing. I can tell that this was directed very well.
Well, and then he went on to direct Spy. Did he direct Bridesmaids?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and a ton of other really good stuff.
I will say that vote for Fun Run because we get to see little Michael. When Pam walks in on Michael when he's changing. Apparently there was a large debate about whether he was actually naked.
I totally forgot about that part.
I think probably not, only because there's a blooper where she just like stands there for a long time.
Right.
Stands there for a long
Didn't Jan accuse
They're
Pam
professionals.
of peeping at Michael in the dinner party?
Oh, yeah.
Because Michael told Jan that Pam had a thing for him and that
Yes.
she was constantly like harassing him.
And Pam thought that she might get poisoned that night by Jan.
Yes.
Oh man.
All right, well, I think we're ready for a vote.
Did I set it up? Let's just find out. Yes, I did. Can you see? Am I doing that? Yeah.
I'm going with the one I'd rather watch right now. And it's not going to win.
I'm gonna go watch Dinner Party after this.
They're both great
I-
episodes.
I
Yeah.
just said to Neil, I'm going to go with the one I'm going to watch next, and it's Fun Run.
Yep.
So
Man, I was looking up the exact words for the Pam line, and I saw Okie Afterbirth, and I completely forgot about it has an Okie Afterbirth.
All right.
I think we have our winner.
Yeah.
Dinner party.
And you know what? It's like Em said about these smaller groups. This is a fun time, even
Yeah.
though we didn't have a ton of people. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm into it.
Mhm,
Getting
Really dwell on the moments.
mhm.
Not too big.
well, from small groups to potentially bigger groups, the ones that are the most attended, most populated are always our food topics. So Ryan, why don't you hit us with April?
April is going to be coming at you a lot faster than you think. Like, we're already partway through March, and then before we know it, April's going to be here. And speaking of fast, we're doing best fast food and fast casual restaurant. I did
Chris.
not have that written out ahead of time. That's just off the dome.
Improv.
Yes.
Improv.
Great.
Yes.
Someone say you-
And what we would like is to get any kind of lists. Like, you got 3 of your favorites, send it on over. You got 5 of your favorites, let us know. You got a whole 10 and some extra ones, we want to know that too. Like, it's going to be a fun bracket, but we want to make sure that we get as much input as possible. So,
Yeah. So fast food and fast casual. So that's everything from McDonald's to Panera to,
Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons. Yep.
Mhm,
Dunkin' Donuts.
mhm.
Oh,
Auntie Anne's.
Mm.
There's so many. I know.
Yeah.
Did you say this
Cinnabon.
is going to be coming at you fast?
Yes, it will be.
That's
That's
what.
what she said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So we always do the second Friday. So that's April 9th. April 9th, fast food and fast casual.
Yeah.
Which you can, everyone who's still unvaccinated, you can still drive yourself through Wendy Burger,
Mhm.
pick up a Frosty and fries, dunk them while you eat or dunk them while you attend.
I'm here for Burger King.
Their fries are the
Wendy's
best.
has lost some points. I'm all about Burger King. Wendy's has lost some points with me lately. I don't know why. So watch it.
I had a craving for an Oreo McFlurry. So I went to the McDonald's right around the corner and ordered an Oreo McFlurry and a small fry so I could dip fries in it. And they said their machine was broken. So then I went 5 minutes down the road to the next McDonald's and I sat in line for 20 minutes and then I left. Because at that point I figured the ice cream that I had ordered 15 minutes before was melted on the counter and I wouldn't want it at that point. So I just left and I never got it and I was sad.
I saw a tweet that said McDonald's should fly their flag at half mast if the ice cream machine is broken.
Don't
There's
waste my time.
apparently a website or something that keeps track of that? Like what ice cream machines are broken?
I was ranting to my mom about this. I called her on my way to the second McDonald's to yell about the first McDonald's and then subsequently yell about the second McDonald's. But like I've worked at McDonald's and Starbucks. And if people say that the blender is broken at Starbucks because they don't want to make a Frappuccino, I would get that because those are a bitch and a half to make. Like I hated making them. But the McDonald's soft serve ice cream, there is nothing difficult about it. The McFlurry, you just pop some ice cream in the cup, you add some Oreos, and then like there's a mixer that mixes it in 2 seconds and you're done. I don't know why it's broken. I don't know why they would make up that it's broken. If they do, there's no reason for that. It's just infuriating.
Mm-hmm.
Scarcity of product, maybe? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm also realizing I'm feeling a little ridiculous with Angela hair, so I'm taking that out while I'm sitting here. No, as soon as the office is done, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm done with this.
It looks good.
Are they little clips?
Yeah.
I still have my Dwight tie, but I'm cash.
I had an interesting moment where I was like starting to watch the episodes, and I asked my one buddy who had like watched the whole series. Like I started to have a thought, like, which Office character would I be?
Ooh.
And so I asked him like his opinion because I was pretty sure I knew the answer, and he told me like a mix of Stanley. I forget, Stanley and somebody else, which I think was probably way more generous to myself because I was totally thinking Andrew Bernard. Because I was like, all the jokes that he makes that are just really annoying, I was like, I totally see myself being that. And he didn't even get that part. He was like, oh yeah, I could see that because you have anger issues. So I was just, don't ask that question to your friends, I guess is how I'm saying it.
No, in a show where people are pretty terrible, you shouldn't say, which one am I like? Same with like Seinfeld. Don't ask what Seinfeld person, you don't want to know. Yeah.
Who is everybody's favorite though? We did talk a lot about Michael, but who's everybody's favorites? I think my favorite is Kevin. When, oh my God, when Holly thinks that he's mentally challenged and all the different things where he pulls out the change. She's like, let's see how much you have. That's a button. And she's so encouraging to him. Oh my gosh. I love Kevin, but I think Dwight is the best. He's the most like well-rounded character. I think they gave him the most like depth as far as like what he's got going on outside of work. And I think just because it was fun to like go with it with him.
Mm-hmm. I think Stanley might be my favorite. But I really do love Holly because I think Holly, they nailed it on the like the enthusiasm that Michael had. Like she has that same like childlike enthusiasm and sort of oblivion to if people are making fun of her. Like she kind of just goes with it, but there's no like, she doesn't hurt. She has like no mean-heartedness to her, if that makes sense. And I think a character like that could seem really dumb, and she doesn't necessarily. It's a very fine line to walk, and I think she nails it. So I like her, but Stanley's probably my favorite. And this is maybe a good time to confess that The Office is not one of my favorite shows, or even like close to one of my favorite shows. And I sort of think that I like have a theory that Stanley dies and goes to hell, and he's been placed with all these people around him to particularly torture him, and he is the central character.
That's an incredible theory.
Like, how much more awful would it be than to spend eternity watching like two prankstery office white people maybe date, maybe not? Like, that would be painful. Like,
I don't know though, if it were truly hell, would he ever get the once a year pretzel day?
I was just about to say pretzel day.
Oh, right. Yes, because having it and then losing it for the whole year would only draw out the torture of it, right? If it was all bleak, Like the fact that you dangle a little something makes 364 days awful.
Bonnie has a good point about Florida Stanley.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Forgot about
but he does have to come back at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe there's like a purgatory reprieve. I don't know how hell.
Somebody prayed for him enough that day.
Yeah.
It could be levels of hell.
A Catholic lit a candle. But yeah.
Listen, one of my favorites that didn't get one single mention so far tonight.
Creed.
Definitely Creed.
Yeah.
He's crazy.
When Creed shows up, like he shows up for a line, and it probably is it might be the funniest in the episode.
Well, the one I just watched was the murder episode.
I
where he comes in and they're like,
yeah.
"There's been a murder," and he's like, "I'm gonna go get settled in," and then he just leaves.
Yeah, he's running out to his car.
He's a perfect character of like, there are some, like I could do with a little more Kevin. I could do like, I'd like a little more, like a few characters, but Creed, if you go any farther with Creed, like they just put him in such a perfectly small amount to just be like, what just happened?
The one Christmas episode where he walks past the toy bin and grabs something out of there, and Jim says like, "Oh, that's donations for the kids," and he's like, "And a Merry Christmas to you too," and keeps on walking.
Yeah, he has the highest batting average of any of them. Like every time he's on, he's knocking it out of the park.
And Daryl, I think we need a little more Daryl love. He's great because he's so passively nasty to Michael that like it's just fun. Like it never comes across as like mean or uncomfortable. It's just kind of like, yeah, Michael's being ridiculous and you are saying something completely appropriate now.
I like the way he's the only one who calls him Mike.
Yeah.
Like, there's just something just so like belittling about that. Like,
yeah,
it comes off cool. Like, listen, Mike.
Yeah. And when he teaches him different words, he's like, you know, things us Negroes say. And he'll just like teach him bizarre, I don't know, made up words.
Catch you on the flippity flop.
Didn't he say like fluffy hands or something?
Does anybody have like a episode that they like in particular that we didn't talk about at all tonight? That's it. Dinka Flicka.
Yes.
The one for me is from like a season that a lot of people don't like, season 8. Garden Party is as funny of an episode as any of the other episodes, any of the earlier seasons. Like it's just all of the stuff that Dwight's doing from the book of etiquette that Jim made and gave to him. And you got like Andy trying to impress his parents, but Josh Groban's his brother. And like, yeah, it's just a really, really good episode.
Connecticut casual. I wore that into the ground at one point.
I really appreciate the running joke with Andy constantly being like, I went to Cornell, and then Jim just being like, where? What is that? And then when Dwight has this whole thing, because we don't really get to see Dwight be the alpha in a prank a lot. So, because normally it's Jim or Pam or somebody playing something on Dwight, even when Dwight is playing a prank on someone, they turn it on him. So when he did the whole Cornell thing with Andy, I loved getting to see Dwight just tear him apart.
Man, those later seasons, like I just forgot that was his name, Robert California. He's the whole thing.
He's a
Kathy Bates is the whole thing.
Yeah, with her dogs.
Oh my gosh, what's his face? Gabe.
Yeah, Gabe.
He made me uncomfortable. The whole Gabe and Aaron thing. Honestly, Andy and Aaron, anyone with Aaron, it felt very predatory.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody they put her with.
Yeah, and she seemed to not necessarily have, and maybe it felt predatory because like there was like love interests on her, but who was her interest?
Right.
Like that, like they didn't really like, with Jim and Pam, they were definitely attracted to each other. Whereas I feel like with like, you didn't really see much from her. So it felt more, I don't know. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Bonnie said, according to Reddit, Gabe was the Scranton Strangler.
What?
That's funny. That was a weird plot line. It was such an undercurrent. There were a lot of clues, she said. Okay, I'm gonna be up till like 3 a.m. looking at that now.
Well, thank you everyone for coming out. This is fun. It can be fun when it's a bigger group with breakout rooms. It can be really fun when it's more conversational. So glad to see everybody, and give us your input on fast food, fast casual restaurants.
Yeah.
Building that bracket.
Yeah.
And gear up for the hate chicken arguments. Just who's Chick-fil-A, who's Popeye, and why.
There's a new Chick-fil-A at Waterworks. I drove by at like 5-ish.
I heard you can't drive through Fox Chapel now.
I got through, okay, but like the whole parking lot, 2 lines. It was a double line, the whole parking lot. I drove by the other way at like 6:30, just as many people there. It's insane.
Gonna be a good hate round.
Yeah. All right.
Y'all.
See you, everybody.
Everybody, good to see you. Should we close out with I
don't think so.
Figure out.
Once you start, you can't stop.